I had this moment this morning that was just painfully classic.
Oh, yeah.
I walked into the kitchen holding a spoon for some reason.
Right, as you do.
Yeah, exactly. And I opened the fridge and I just stared at the shelves. I stood there for a solid 30 seconds, freezing in the cold air, realizing I had absolutely zero idea what I was looking for.
Oh, man. The dreaded doorway effect.
Yeah.
You cross a threshold and the brain just completely resets the scene.
Yes, exactly. It wasn't just like a tip of the tongue thing. It was a complete hard drive wipe.
That's totally normal, though. We all do it.
Right, but it happens constantly. I feel like we all have this shared resignation about it. We talk about memory like it's this fixed hardware spec we're born with. Like, oh, sorry, I only came with the 16 gigabyte model. My cache is full.
It really is a universal struggle. We treat memory like height or eye color. You're either blessed with a steel trap or you're stuck with a sieve. You just kind of assume there's nothing you can do about it.
But today, we are completely dismantling that idea. We're doing a deep dive into how to develop a brilliant memory week by week by Dominic O'Brien. And honestly, the week by week part is what really grabbed me.
Because it implies a process.
Exactly. It implies a workout plan rather than just a magic trick.
And it is absolutely a process. And consider the source here. I mean, Dominic O'Brien isn't a neuroscientist studying memory in some sterile lab. He's a practitioner. He is an 8-time world memory champion.
Which is insane.
It is. This is a guy who once memorized 54 decks of cards, shuffled after seeing them just one time.
Which sounds completely alien. It sounds like a superpower you'd see in a comic book movie. But the hook of this book and the whole reason we're talking about it today is O'Brien's backstory. He claims he didn't start out this way, right?
No, quite the opposite, actually. He struggled significantly in school. He had attention issues. He was easily distracted. He describes his pre-training memory as completely average, even flabby.
Flabby memory. I like that.
Yeah, his entire argument is that memory is just a muscle. If you don't go to the gym, your muscles are weak. If you don't train your memory, you forget why you opened the fridge.
That honestly gives me so much hope. So our mission today is to figure out what that training actually looks like. We're going to strip down the 52 steps in his book and look at the engine under the hood. Like, how does a guy go from average student to memorizing thousands of digits of binary code?
Well, it really comes down to 3 operational principles. O'Brien calls them the 3 keys. If you master these, everything else, whether it's playing cards or names or long speeches, is just a variation on a theme.
Okay, let's hear them.
The keys are association, location, and imagination.
Let's break those down because they sound simple on the surface, but I feel like there's some real nuance here. Start with association.
Sure. So the brain hates isolation. It doesn't like a fact floating around in a void because it has nowhere to put it.
Yeah.
It wants to hook things together. O'Brien uses the example of chalk and cheese. But say those 2 words to you, what happens?
I mean, I instantly picture them. I think about the texture, like chalk is dry and dusty, and cheese, well, it's cheesy. I think about how different they are.
Exactly. Your brain instantly tries to find a relationship. Are they both white? Do they have different textures? That instant linking process, that is association.
Okay.
To remember something completely new, you have to weld it to something you already know. You're basically building a bridge between the new data and your existing neural network.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. Then we have location. This is the one that felt the most primal to me when I was reading through the source material.
It is primal. I mean, evolutionarily speaking, we didn't need to memorize phone numbers or PIN codes or the capital of Nebraska.
Right.
We needed to remember where the blueberries were, where the clean water was, and where the tigers lived. Our spatial memory, our internal GPS, is incredibly robust. It's a literal survival mechanism.
So O'Brien argues that if you can place a memory in a specific physical space in your mind, it becomes almost impossible to lose. So we're basically hacking our hunter-gatherer brain to remember a grocery list.
That's exactly what we're doing. And then that brings us to the 3rd key, which is imagination.
The fun one.
The fun one, and the fuel for the whole system. And O'Brien gets really specific here. He talks about theta brainwave activity.
Right. The brain waves.
Yeah, that's the state you drift into right before you fall asleep or when you're deep in a daydream. Logical dry memories are slippery. They fall out of your head because they're boring.
Yeah, nobody remembers a spreadsheet.
Exactly. But vivid, bizarre, ridiculous images, those stick. He says you have to stop thinking like a spreadsheet and start thinking like a cartoonist.
I love that phrase, thinking like a cartoonist. It gives you permission to be a bit silly with it. Let's look at the first practical tool he gives us, which is step 2, visualization.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people check out here because they think, well, I don't have a photographic memory. I can't hallucinate an apple if I close my eyes.
That is a huge misconception, and it's one that stops people before they even start. O'Brien clarifies this early on. When he says visualize, he doesn't mean you need a 4K high-definition hologram playing behind your eyelids.
Right, he uses the panda example for this.
He does. If I say imagine a panda, you know what a panda looks like.
Yeah, black and white eating bamboo.
Right. You might not see the individual texture of the fur or the reflection of light in its eyes, but you have the concept. Black eyes, white belly, maybe sharp claws. That essence, the cartoon sketch, is all you really need. You don't need to be an artist. You just need to be able to call up the concept.
Okay, so let's get our hands dirty with this. The book starts with something called the body system. This is for short lists, like a shopping list or a daily to-do list.
This is a great entry point because you always have the apparatus with you. You use your own body as a filing cabinet. You create pegs from head to toe to store information.
Let's walk through the example in the book because it's honestly pretty weird, which I guess is the whole point. The list we need to remember is blue paint dog biscuits newspaper and a flashlight.
Okay. Now, most people would just repeat blue paint dog biscuits, blue paint dog biscuits over and over until they go crazy.
Guilty.
The body system says no. Attach the first item to your foot.
So you visualize stepping into a bucket of blue paint?
Yes, but don't just think it. This is where you have to engage the senses. Feel the cold wetness seeping into your sock. Hear the squelch when you wiggle your toes. See the blue splash on your ankle.
Right.
That's the association with your foot and the imagination of the blue splash working together.
Okay, I can definitely feel the squelch. Next item is dog biscuits, and the location for that is the knee.
So imagine a dog jumping up and nipping at your knee, begging for a treat. Maybe it's a big dog and his paws are actually scratching your shin. It's a little painful. Pain is actually a great memory aid because we remember things that hurt.
Okay, ouch. Third item is newspaper. The location for that is the thigh.
Imagine you have a rolled up newspaper stuffed into your pocket. But it's really thick and uncomfortable. It's crinkling every time you walk. You can actually hear the paper crunching against your leg.
And the last one is the stomach or the belly button. The item is a flashlight. And this is where O'Brien really leans into the bizarre side of things.
He suggests imagining a beam of bright yellow light shooting directly out of your belly button. Like you're a human lighthouse. It's illuminating the whole room in front of you.
See, that's the kind of image where if I saw someone doing that in public, I'd run the other way.
Yeah.
But that's exactly why it works, right?
Precisely. If I told you to just remember the word flashlight, you might forget it. But if you visualize yourself with a beam of light shooting out of your stomach, that image is sticky.
Yeah, it's hard to unsee.
If you walk into the store later, you just scan your body. Foot, oh, paint, knee, dog, belly, beam of light, flashlight. It's instantly accessible.
That handles a list where you have a specific order to remember. But what if the items are completely abstract or unrelated? He talks about the link method for creating a chain.
This is for when the order matters. But you don't necessarily need a fixed location like your body. You just link item A to item B, then B to C, and so on. The example sequence he gives in the book is paper window snail car.
Okay. Very random.
Totally random. So you build a story. You imagine holding a balled up piece of paper and throwing it at a window. Smash. The window breaks. But what's inside the room? A giant snail.
And the snail is, let me guess, driving a car.
The snail is slithering out of the broken window and getting behind the wheel of a sleek sports car. A giant snail driving a Ferrari.
That is absurd.
It's funny, and it binds those four unrelated concepts into a single narrative arc. You can't get to the car without the snail, and you can't get to the snail without the window.
I can see how that works. But O'Brien is famous for memorizing thousands of things at once. You can't chain 1,000 items together like that. If you forget one single link, the whole chain breaks, right?
Correct. The link method is fragile for huge data sets. That's where we graduate to the heavy artillery, which is the journey method. This is step 10 in the book, but it's really the core engine of the entire system.
This is based on the ancient Greek loci method, isn't it?
Yes, the memory palace. But O'Brien simplifies it for modern use. He says, take a journey you know perfectly. A walk through your own house is the absolute best place to start. You define specific stops along the route.
So stop 1 is the front door, stop 2 is the hallway, stop 3 is the kitchen, stop 4 is the living room.
Exactly. These stops are your empty mental folders. They are permanent. They never change. Your kitchen is always going to be where your kitchen is. Now let's place a to-do list into these folders.
Okay, let's do the list straight from the chapter. First task is call the vet.
You're standing at your front door, which is stop 1. You need to visualize something that screams, call the vet. Maybe there's a giant phone ringing on the doormat and a cat is sitting on top of it hissing at you. You hear the ring, you see the angry cat.
Stop 2 is the hallway, and the task is men's sunglasses.
You walk into your hallway, but the lights are blinding. It's like a supernova in there. It physically hurts your eyes. You desperately grab a pair of broken sunglasses to shield yourself. The sensation of the glare makes the memory stick.
Stop 3 is the kitchen. Task is bake cupcakes.
This one is easy. You walk into the kitchen, and the counter is just covered in hundreds of cupcakes. But don't just see them. Smell the vanilla, feel the heat radiating from the oven. Maybe imagine slipping on a road cupcake that fell on the floor.
And finally, stop for the living room. The task is visit the bank manager.
You walk in, and there, sitting in your favorite cozy recliner, is your bank manager. He's wearing a very serious pinstripe suit, holding a briefcase, and looking completely out of place in your living room.
What I love about this is how calm it feels. When I usually try to remember a list, I'm frantically repeating it in my head. Vet, sunglasses, cupcakes, vet, sunglasses. It's incredibly stressful.
This just feels like a stroll. That's the secret. It utilizes your declarative memory. You are anchoring fleeting short-term data, like the list, to permanent long-term data, like your house.
Yeah.
You cannot forget your kitchen. It's physically impossible unless you have amnesia.
Right.
So by welding the cupcake to the kitchen, the cupcake becomes as permanent as the room itself.
Okay, I am completely sold on lists and objects, but now we have to talk about the final boss of memory, numbers. PIN codes, dates binary code. To me, numbers are just squiggles on a page. They have no texture. They don't smell like cupcakes.
They are completely abstract, and the brain hates abstract information. I can't latch onto it. So O'Brien invented a language to translate numbers into people. It's called the Dominic system.
Which stands for decipherment of mnemonically interpreted numbers into characters.
You really forced that acronym, didn't you? But the system itself is brilliant. It works in stages. First, you convert the digits 0 through 9 into letters.
Okay, give me the code. How does he do it?
Some of them are obvious. 1 is A because it's the first letter.
Yeah.
2 is B. 3 is C. 4 is D. 5 is E. That part is straightforward.
Makes sense.
Then he gets creative. 6 is S because the word 6 starts with S. 7 is G because the G key is usually the 7th note, or specifically because a capital G actually looks a bit like a 7.
Oh, yeah, it kind of does.
8 is H because it's the 8th letter. 9 is N because 9 starts with N. And 0 is O for obvious shape reasons.
So now all our numbers are letters. What do we do with them?
You group them into pairs. Every 2-digit number becomes a set of initials, and every set of initials belongs to a specific person.
Let's look at the examples, because this is where it really clicked for me. Take the number 06.
0 is O. 6 is S. Initials are OS. Who is OS? O'Brien suggests Oliver Stone, the famous director.
And 18.
1 is A. 8 is H. AH. Adolf Hitler, a very distinct and memorable figure.
And 43.
4 is D. 3 is CDC. David Copperfield, the magician.
Okay, so if I see the number 43, I don't think 43. I think David Copperfield. But he takes it a step further. It's not just the person, it's what they are doing.
Right. Every character must have a signature action, or a signature prop. This is crucial for the system to work. Oliver Stone 06 is sitting in a director's chair shouting action. Adolf Hitler 18 is goose-stepping. David Copperfield 43 is pulling a rabbit out of a top hat.
No, why do we need the action? Why isn't the person alone enough to remember it?
Because of the complex Dominic system. This is how he stores massive amounts of data efficiently. Let's say you need to remember a 4-digit PIN code, 7243.
Okay, 7243.
You split it into pairs, 72 and 43. 7 is G and 2 is BGB, who's GB George Bush. And 43 we already know is David Copperfield.
So I have George Bush and David Copperfield.
But you want one single image, not two separate ones. So you take the person from the first number, which is George Bush, and you take the action from the second number, which is Copperfield's magic trick.
So the image is George Bush pulling a rabbit out of a hat.
Exactly.
Nice.
You have compressed 4-digit 7243 into a single bizarre movie scene of a president performing stage magic.
That is wild and highly effective because that image is incredibly sticky. 7243 is boring. Bush performing magic is unforgettable.
And that is the secret sauce. That is exactly how he memorizes 54 decks of cards. A card converts to a number, the number converts to a person and an action, and he places that person in his memory palace. It's just layering all the fundamental techniques we discussed.
It effectively turns a math problem into a storytelling problem, and humans are naturally great at stories.
Precisely. We've been telling stories for thousands of years. We've only been using PIN codes for a few decades.
Let's bring this down to earth a bit for everyday use.
Yeah.
Most of us aren't out there memorizing decks of cards, but we do have that awkward moment at a party where you meet someone and 10 seconds later you have absolutely no idea what their name is. How do we apply this to names and faces?
So Brian calls this the learner profile struggle. He suggests two main tactics for this. The first is give a face a place. Let's say you meet a woman named Margaret. You need to instantly hook Margaret to something. Maybe she looks a bit serious or studious to you.
So I visualize her in a library.
Yes. But you still need to trigger the actual name. So you imagine a famous Margaret Thatcher is the classic example, working in the library right alongside her.
So the logic chain is I see her face, she looks studious. I think library, I put Thatcher there, which gets me to Margaret.
It sounds like a really slow process when we say it out loud, but the brain does it in milliseconds.
What's the second technique?
The second technique is the feature link. This is for when a physical feature really stands out. The book uses the example of a guy named Peter Bird.
And let me guess, Peter has a nose that looks exactly like a beak.
He does. So you look at the nose, you think beak, you think bird, which gives you the last name Bird. Then maybe for Peter, you imagine St. Peter at the pearly gates holding a bird. You just pile on the associations. The more ridiculous it is, the better it works.
I can see that helping with public speaking too. I always hate using notes. I'm always terrified I'll lose my place and just freeze up on stage.
Notes are a crutch, and they disconnect you from the audience. O'Brien suggests using the journey method for speeches. But instead of putting cupcakes in the kitchen, you put the key topics of your speech in the rooms.
So if I need to remember to thank the farmer who hosted the event.
You don't memorize the exact sentence I would like to thank, Mr. Jenkins. You just put a cow in the bedroom of your mental house. When you get to the bedroom part of your speech, you see the cow and you instantly know, I need to talk about the farmer. It keeps your delivery natural. You aren't reading, you're just describing a journey you're walking through in your head.
That's brilliant. It frees you up to actually be present in the moment. Now, there's one more application I want to touch on because it sounded almost like science fiction to me. Gender zones for language learning.
Oh, this is a great one. If you've ever learned Spanish or French, you know the pain of masculine and feminine nouns. Is a table masculine? Is a window feminine? It feels entirely arbitrary.
So how does O'Brien actually solve it?
He suggests dividing your mental city into two distinct zones, a masculine district and a feminine district. Let's say you're learning Spanish. El gato, the cat, is masculine. So you don't just picture a cat. You picture a cat prowling the streets of the masculine district. Maybe that district is full of gritty skyscrapers and construction sites, while the feminine district is full of bright parks and cafes.
And if the word is feminine?
It goes to the other side of town.
Yeah.
You're using spatial memory to handle abstract grammar rules. And for the words themselves, he uses sound association. The German example he uses is Speck, which means bacon.
Speck.
So you visualize a delicious piece of bacon with a tiny speck of dirt on it. The sound speck triggers the image, which then triggers the meaning.
It's so elegant. We've covered a lot of the software today, the techniques, but the book also has a whole section on the hardware, the physical brain itself, because you can't run high-performance apps on a crashing computer.
Absolutely. Step 48 is healthy body, healthy memory. O'Brien is adamant about this. The brain is an absolute oxygen sponge. It consumes a massive amount of the body's energy. If you aren't exercising, you aren't oxygenating the brain cells, and your memory will physically degrade.
And what about diet?
He lists the classics: antioxidants like bananas, red peppers, spinach, and omega-3s from oily fish. He frames it as mopping up free radicals, basically preventing rust from forming in your neural pathways.
He also talks about brain waves again here. We mentioned theta earlier for imagination, but he connects it directly to relaxation.
Right. Step 11, concentration. He talks about the zone. When you are stressed, frantic, or trying to multitask, you are in high beta wave usage. Memory simply doesn't stick there. You need to slow down into alpha and theta states. You have to physically relax your body to memorize effectively.
Which is deeply ironic because when we try to remember things, we usually tense up. We squint and we strain our brains.
And that's exactly the wrong approach. Relaxation is the actual gateway to memory.
One less practical thing before we wrap up today. The Ebbinghaus forgetting curve. It's that tragic psychological rule that says we forget 80% of what we learn within a single day. How do we beat that?
O'Brien prescribes the rule of 5. It's a very specific schedule for review. If you want to keep a memory forever, you review it 5 times, 1 immediately, 2 24 hours later, 3 1 week later, 4 1 month later, and 5 3 months later.
Spaced repetition.
Exactly. Each time you review it, you reset the decay curve. By the time you hit that 5th review, it's practically permanent.
So if I step back and look at this entire system, the big takeaway isn't just about remembering a grocery list. It feels like we've been viewing memory as a chore when it's actually a profoundly creative act.
That is the perfect summary. Memory is creativity. To remember the number 7243, you have to be creative enough to invent a scene with George Bush and a magician. To remember your speech, you have to decorate your mental house with cows. O'Brien teaches us that the more playful, silly, and imaginative we are, the sharper our minds actually become.
I really love that. To be smarter, you have to be a little bit weirder.
In a way, yes. Logic is the enemy of memory. Absurdity is its best friend.
Before we go, there's one concept in the book that felt almost poetic. Step 20, time travel.
Ah, yes. This is a beautiful note to end on. O'Brien suggests that we rarely truly forget things. We just lose the file path to get to them. He believes you can physically relax, close your eyes, and mentally return to a specific location from your childhood. A classroom, a garden, a holiday spot.
And just by being there in your mind, you remember.
If you focus on the sensory details, reconstruct the smell of the floor polish in that old classroom, the texture of the wooden desk, the sound of the clock ticking on the wall, you can actually unlock memories that have been dormant for decades. It proves that the archive is intact. We just need to calm down, go back, and find the right key.
That's such a powerful thought. Your past is still there, safe and sound, just waiting for a visit. Thank you for guiding us through the Mind Palace today.
My pleasure.
And for you listening, try the body system the next time you go shopping. See if you can put a beam of light in your belly button without laughing out loud in the aisle. We'll see you on the next deep dive.